Okay, the first movement we're going to review is the body weight squat, also known as an air squat. Full range of motion in this movement is when the hip go below the knees and the knees stay back behind the toes. What we're going to do is create a checklist for each of these movements. So we'll start at the feet and work our way up. In the air squat, we want to set our feet shoulder width apart, and that really means the heels are going to be shoulder width apart. So if I kick and get my feet out a little bit, but put my heels under my feet and then let my toes go just a little bit wider, that would be a good stance for this movement. From there, we're going to think about what our knees are going to do. So in a good squat, the knees will stay behind the toes. And I'll show you what that looks like. So the only way I can keep my knees behind my toes is if I break my hip crease first and not the knee first. So this would be a bad loading sequence in an air squat. When I bend the knees and the hips have not broken the plane at all. So what we want to do is push the hips back and therefore creating space for our knees to stay behind our toes. So the other thing we don't want to do with the knees is let the knees cave in. Okay, we want to maintain an active position by rotating the knees away. And the best way to think about this is like spinning plates with your feet, but keeping your big toe engaged with the floor. So if you see my knee, if I break the hip back, keep the knee, I still have a very passive knee. So I want to use my feet and muscle to bow the knee out. This will keep you in a very active position. Nothing is passive in an air squat. So we're thinking shoulder width apart, toes out, knees away, and hips back. That's the lower body in an air squat. So you're going to see how that's all true as I push the hip back. So again, full range of motion is when the hip gets below the knee. But if full range of motion isn't currently there for you, we want you to modify by keeping everything true, but staying high in the squat. So the more depth I can manage without breaking good position, the better. So if this happens for your air squat currently, good, 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 starting to bend the knee forward. Can you see how the knees are now over the toes instead of being back here? So we're going to ask you to maintain the best quality of squat until your mobility, flexibility, and strength come up to support the range of motion that would be full range of motion. So now we know what the lower body is doing in this movement. Let's think about the torso and the upper body. So the first thing I want you to do, or we want you to do, is to draw the midline down. Try and take the excessive arch out of the back. This is still a passive position when everything's good, but I have this huge arch in my back. So draw the midline down, get tight, arms up. And I wasn't passive in my midline. The erectors were fighting. The arms up help to keep the erectors engaged. The other thing I'm doing is pulling my shoulders back. A cue you'll hear in here is called big chest or open chest. And that means we're not letting the shoulders round forward, and that's what this would look like. So it's subtle, and it's even harder for me to keep active in my midline. So again, drawing down, pulling the shoulders back, hands up, fighting for best position. Now, if everything were to go away, and this was, say, your first time doing an air squat, you may end up doing things like this. Loading the knees first, pushing the chest down, facing the floor instead of facing the wall. So we see a lot of this with beginners, and that's okay. That's why we're a teaching facility. So knees, chest, and now we're very passive. Nothing is in good position. So again, air squats are not a passive movement. We do them a lot, and the more you do them, the easier it is to quickly engage these muscle groups and have it be a good quality of squat. So you may not see somebody who's trained with us for a year or more go through this checklist slowly and methodically. They may just get into their stance, get here, and rep out some air squats. So with range of motion comes speed, which brings better adaptation and better results. So that's why we start from square one and work up. All good reps.